MCAT Office Hours. It is Tuesday, April 7th. It's a great day to be alive. Petros Manassi, VP of Test Prep and Tutoring at Medical School HQ. 25 years of experience in the MCAT and pre-med world. How you doing, my friend?
I'm well. How are you?
Okay.
And it is a good day to be alive, right?
It is. It's always a good day to be alive.
Every morning, it's a good day to be alive. So.
Yes, it is. That's what they say. Supposedly. My name is Dr. Ryan Gray, founder of Medical School Headquarters, host of the Pre-Med Years podcast, author of the Pre-Med Playbook series, all that good stuff. My friends, we are here to answer your MCAT questions. Bring them fast and furious and we can answer as many questions as possible. Petros, April 7th, I'm going to go again to my handy dandy MCAT dates page here on Medical School HQ and look at the dates. We have, all right, I'm going to zoom in here a little bit. We're here. We got a test date coming up just a couple days. Yep. Little kumbaya for those who are taking the test. April 10th. Oh my goodness. Is anything going to happen between now and April 10th? Because a lot of people want some things to happen between now and April 10th.
Yeah, I mean, it's yes, things can happen. And so let me preface that by saying things can happen in the negative direction very easily between now and April 10th and April 11th, because if you're overly stressed, right, during this period of time and not getting enough sleep, not, keeping yourself nourished the way you need to keep yourself nourished, both physically and mentally, that can start to take a toll and manifest itself on the actual day of the exam. So yes, you can still do something. Are you going to learn an entirely new subject that you've never understood before in one day's time and master it and be able to, answer questions on it with 100% accuracy, or even be guaranteed that those questions are going to show up? No, let's not over expect that. But yes, there are little things you can be doing. Really the big thing in the week before the exam, very simply put, is just making sure that you're taking care of yourself and not over stressing and letting that all just come into play on the actual day of the exam. So
yeah, unfortunately, easier said than done. Not letting that stress get to you. Oh man, it's crazy.
You and I sit in a very comfortable place, right? We're not taking the exam on Friday or on Saturday. So
you sit on a throne of lies. What's that from? Probably a movie you haven't seen because you don't have a kid.
Yeah, we've established that there are many movies I have not seen. So
it's from Elf.
I've seen Elf.
Have you seen Elf? It's when he's working in the department store and he's super excited because Santa's coming, and then Santa comes and it's not the real Santa. Oh yes, I love Elf. So good.
I feel like my assignment every week for this is whatever movie reference you make in the previous week, I have to then go watch that movie before.
I'm doing my work by watching Silicon Valley. So
you are doing your work by watching. Good job.
It's pretty star-studded. There's some good people in it.
Just wait.
Just wait. But wait, there's more.
There's more.
Our friend Luis from Instagram asks, can I get a good score with only 4 full days of studying per week? I'm a nurse and I have to work my 312s. I try to do Anki while at work, and my MCAT full length was about a 500.
So, 4 full days of studying that's
a lot.
It's a lot. Even if full means only 8 hours, I say only means 8 hours, but if that means 8 hours of studying in a day, that's 32 hours a week. That's a lot. I will ask, when is your exam? Because if your exam is, in 3 weeks.
He's testing at the end of June.
End of June. How did you know that?
It was another question that he asked.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So end of June. We just started April, so you've got April, May, and all of June. So That's a lot of time. I think it's a matter of making sure that you have the right structure and that you're working on the right things, right? You're not just, I mean, studying for, let's call it 32 hours per week. If you did 8 hours for 4 days of the week, that's a lot, but it's very easy to fall into an inefficiency trap as you're going through the material if you're not, just doing a lot of things, but not actually doing the right things to improve the score. So,
yeah,
but definitely doable.
Definitely doable.
So the answer to your question, Luis, is yes, you can get a good score studying only for 4 full days a week.
Yeah. Yep. This other question, here's a question here from John Jones. Testing in September, began studying last week. Feeling overwhelmed. It's only been a week, my friend. No, I get it. One week of the MCAT, you're like, what the heck did I sign up for? Current resources are Kaplan, content review books, UWorld, and Anki. Best way to start. Chapter and questions. Read all first. What's the order of operations here? Is this PEDMOS? What's the order of operation? The math one? Isn't it PEDMOS?
PEMDAS. Parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction, right? So the order of operations would be to start with some kind of diagnostic to see where your weak spots and areas of opportunity are before diving into a read everything, right? Read all of it first. Like, don't do that. I have this conversation. I've had this conversation, quite frankly, more times than I've cared to have this conversation, where students will say to me, I'm 50% done or I'm 60% done with my content review. And my question then is, what does that mean, right? What does 60% done mean? You've read 60% of the chapters. That doesn't mean you've necessarily learned that material. It just means you've read 60% of the chapters, or you've done 60% of your Anki, or, of whatever Anki deck it is that you've chosen to work through. So, use inputs, or use outputs, excuse me, to define what your input should be, and start from there. So identify the weak areas. Cars, obviously, you want to be working on that all the time, but start to identify the areas, the content areas, and then start to do a deep review of those areas and reinforce them. So so John, to your question and to your kind of thought process, you always want to be reinforcing any type of content review with questions, so that you're starting to use the content. Because I can assure you, if you just read through all the content, by the time you're done reading through all the content, you'll have forgotten the stuff that you read first, if you don't actually do some type of reinforcement exercise along the way. So,
yeah, that's where that good old spaced repetition comes in.
That's right. That's right.
Let's see. I graduate this semester debating studying May 18th to September 12th, about 3.5 months. This didn't work last summer when I tried to study and quit after 2-ish months and stuck at 500, did content and 3 weeks of UWorld before a MC. Or there's a follow-up question. Or let me see. Let me take this as well. I didn't see the follow-up. Let me put it here. Or thinking of trying to get an MA job, work June through October, study full-time November to end of March, early April. So I'd have 5 months MA on my app and more time studying. But I don't know if quitting MA would look bad. Yeah. Petros, a couple moving pieces here. I have a general dislike of black and white thinking. I do it often, and I like being called out when I do it. And I'm like, okay, you're right. Why am I thinking black and white? Right. This student's very black and white. It's all-time MCAT or all-time MA and then all-time MCAT. There's no balance or middle ground of like, wait, I don't have to work full-time as an MA. I don't have to study full-time for the MCAT. How do we get students to break out of this? Or is that the right way to think?
Yeah, no, I feel like we talked about this last week or the week before, where you're not going to get that luxury in med school, right? Where it's like, I'm going to take 3 months off and I'm going to study for the MCAT. Like you don't get to focus on one thing, right? You have to start training yourself to be able to balance multiple things at the same time, right? It's not like we can say, oh, I'm only going to work this week and I'm not going to deal with anything in my personal life, and then next week I'm only going to deal with stuff in my personal life and I'm not going to work, right? Like that's not how life works. When it comes to studying for the MCAT and balancing out the other responsibilities or the other things that you want to do, it's really about building out the right balance, and quite frankly also mapping out what runway you're going to need. I can say with some degree of confidence and some degree of authority that while, let's call it 300 hours of studying for the MCAT is probably the number that you're going to end up needing overall, it's very different if you try to squeeze that 300 hours into, a month versus if you try to take that 300 hours and stretch it out over 4 or 5 months or 6 months or 7 months, right? If you have other things going on, because there is an element that isn't accounted for in the number of hours that you're studying for the exam. That is just your brain processing things, right? We don't think about this often, but when we learn something, there's a lot of activity. Well, maybe not in my brain, but there's a lot of activity going on in your head when you're not actively learning that is actually causing you to retain that information over a longer period of time. And so where I'm kind of going with this is you have to think about the overall trajectory and the overall timeline that you're going to need in order to get yourself to a place where the material for the exam becomes second nature. Can you balance that while doing something else? Absolutely. Right? Like there's nothing that should stop you from that, and not necessarily feeling the need to only focus on one thing and only focus on another thing. And I'm not going to address like how the admissions officers would view starting an MA job and then quitting it, and then you went and studied for the MCAT, because I think that's beyond the scope of here. But just in general, it's to your advantage to try to build out the long-term trajectory and not be thinking about things in terms of I have to only do this one thing now and then another thing later.
Yeah. Yeah. So for you, whatever that name is, yeah, I think from the admission standpoint, there are so many more questions here that I would need to ask. Great. It's good to obviously be an MA and have that experience on your application. What experience do you have currently, if any? If you don't, then I would say you need to start working as an MA or volunteering as an MA to get some of that experience. And yes, it wouldn't look great to just have it and then stop after a few months. And so there's a lot more to dig in there to learn some more. So many questions beget more questions, as they say. Is that the right word? Beget? It's a very fancy word that I never say.
No comment.
No,
yes. No, it's a word, right? This begets that. So yes, yeah.
Okay.
That, yeah.
I used it right. Woo! It's begets a very bespoke word.
It's a very bespoke word. I was waiting for you to go there. So
Brian, hey team, I'm a non-traditional student starting my DIY post-bac to complete the science prereqs for medical school apps in about 2 years' time. In your opinion, what's the most optimal way to prepare study for the MCAT in a few years at the start of these prerequisite courses? Long timeline here, Petros.
Long timeline, and that's a great question. And Brian, I'm glad you're thinking about it early versus late. So you're doing the DIY post-bac. You have access. Everybody has access to the blueprint, what's on the MCAT, right? As far as the topics are concerned, I would say go grab that. Go grab the syllabus from the various courses that you're taking and see what topics are going to show up again on the MCAT. Pay extra special attention to those topics when you're studying it in the chem class, the bio class, whatever it might be, and start doing some little mini reinforcement questions as you're going through. That way, when you're done with the coursework, you don't have to restart from the beginning when you're reviewing content as far as the MCAT. So you have an opportunity to keep the content a little bit more fresh in your mind as you're leading up to the MCAT. Obviously, your like true MCAT prep will start a little bit later on, right? You don't want to start that now because you haven't taken the courses yet, so fine. But at least you can start to know what's going to be showing up and what's going to be a little bit more higher yield. So that's the answer.
That is the answer. That's all I gotta say about that. All right.
I know that movie.
Love it. Let's see. That movie came up the other day. I was trying to tell my kids about this movie called Forrest Gump. So good. Tanner asks, is it better to apply early with a lesser score or a bit later 1 month with a few additional points? Oh, chasing a few additional points. There again, there's so many questions that need to be asked here, Petros, of like, well, what is your current score? what is your definition of lesser? Because I've talked to students with like 517s and are like, oh, it's not what I wanted. I'm like, I would be over the moon with that score. So what's your current score? And then what's a few additional points, right? A lot of times students will score like 2 points more. And I'm like, you're within the confidence range of your old score. So probably didn't make a huge difference in the mind of the admissions committee, unless potentially it's above a certain threshold cutoff, whatever. I think the answer to this question, though, is both, right? You apply with the score you have now and plan on retaking, in which case the medical schools will sit on the application until that new score comes back, typically.
Yep.
So, yeah. I don't know. GPA is lower side 3.4, last 60, 3.9. Awesome. Nice upward trend. Love to see it. I'm not an MCAT question. Sorry. Can we take MCAT in sophomore year if graduating 3 years and using fourth as a gap? It happens, Petros.
You can technically take the MCAT the first day of your freshman year. You can take the MCAT whenever you want to, right? There's nothing.
Can you take, like, if you're a dual enrollment student in high school, can you take it in high school?
You can take the MCAT whenever you want to. Like there's technically
the AAMC won't email you a week before your test and go, sorry, you're not eligible for this test. Oh wait, no, that's the conference.
They will if you indicate something that indicates. No, I mean when you register for the exam, you attest that you are taking the exam because you have the intention and the purpose, or for the purposes of applying to medical school. So technically speaking, you can take it your freshman year. I will not recommend that anyone, like for the record, do not take it your freshman year of college. You have to take the prereqs, but it's not like they go and check your prerequisite coursework to allow you to go and take the MCAT. So the answer to your question is yes, you can take it your sophomore year. I will give you this advice though: make sure that you've finished your prerequisite coursework and obviously done the studying for taking the exam. So that's not uncommon. A lot of students will actually take the MCAT in the summer between their sophomore and junior year if they finished up the prereqs, whether or not they're graduating in 3 years or not, right? Like they'll still just take the exam, or they'll use that summer in between if they've already got the classes done with. So that is totally doable, is what it is.
Doable. All right. Godspeed, my friend. Godspeed. And to the next question, how common is this for successful applicants? It's an impossible question to answer. So you do you, boo. Petros, I know you have a deck. Do you want to get through the...
Yeah, there was one from Mac Puppy, actually, that's kind of along the same vein.
Yeah.
So I think I kind of answered this, but as far as ideal timeline for prepping for the MCAT goes back to, you want to have give yourself enough time to prepare for the exam. So 4 to 5 months, generally speaking, is how much time you want to have. And then as close as you can to, starting that setting as close as you can to when you have finished your prerequisite courses, so that the material is fresh in your mind.
So fresh and so clean.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right. Cool. Let's chat about what we're chatting about.
Yeah. What did I call this one? Thinking under the influence, I think is what I labeled it for today. Yeah, there it is. So take it from there. So a little psych soc. Here's a very representative psych soc type question. It's very specific as far as the way that it's worded for a reason. So there's a reason, there's a calculus to how they write these questions and the reasons why the questions are written the way that they're written and the answer choices are written the way that they're written. So it says here, a 5-member hospital ethics committee meets to decide whether to approve an experimental surgical procedure. It doesn't actually matter, and you'll see what I mean by this in a second, that it is necessarily a hospital ethics committee that is meeting to approve an experimental surgical procedure. That is part of the kind of red herring that the MCAT will throw at you. So they have to give some example, right? They could have easily said a 5-member committee is meeting to decide to approve something. It just doesn't sound as, MCAT-y or medicine-y if they were to just put the word something in there, but just putting it out there. During discussion, the chairperson immediately voices strong support for approval, and the other members quickly concur. Doubts raised by one member are dismissed as overly cautious, and the group declines to solicit additional expert opinions in order to present a unified front. Which of the following changes to the committee's decision-making process is most likely to reduce the influence of the social phenomenon illustrated in the passage or in this question? So this is my point, is that it didn't actually matter that it's a surgical procedure. This is a classic example of, you've got a committee of people, right? A 5-member committee of people, and one person who is the chairperson, right? The person who's in charge goes and says, I think that this is approved. And what ends up happening? Everyone around goes, oh yes, I agree too. I agree too. Right. So this is the case of group thinking, right? So the quick kind of agreeance with that chairperson is kind of immediately comes front and center, and they don't actually go out to the outside for any other expert opinions, because they want to be presenting this united front. And this is a very classic scenario in which you have groupthink that's occurring. And so the idea here, as far as, a little content review, if you will, when you're looking at groupthink, this is where there's this desire for kind of harmony within the group, and that overrides people actually getting their opportunity to say what they want to say. So this happens a lot in friend groups where, you have one person who's very opinionated or very strong in their statement as far as what they want to do. And inevitably a couple people will turn around and say, you know what, fine, let's just do what they want to do. I'm not happy because I didn't get my voice didn't get heard. But at the same time, I want to keep the group happy. So I'm just going to kind of go with the flow. Right. So there's that kind of piece to it. So it's these 3 elements of cohesion, premature closure, and then kind of the fix, if you will, where the group has a strong bond. So this committee in this case has a strong bond, so nobody wants to be the odd person out. At the same time, you don't actually allow a true discussion to happen, right? You don't allow for the opportunity for people to really kind of think for themselves, unbiased, right? Without kind of hearing what other people are thinking.
I do this all the time. As the boss, I'm like, I'm not going to say my opinion. I want to hear other people's opinions first.
Yeah. The true fix to this, though, which is this is the tactic that I use.
Don't ask people's opinions.
What is that?
It said the true fix is don't ask people's opinions.
The true fix is, the true fix is don't ask people's. Okay, I see what you did there. I now know that my opinion does not matter, so I'll just go with the flow. No, but the true fix is actually to have people write their opinions down. Right, this is actually a management trick. Is you say, okay, you know what? I want everybody to write down like what your actual opinion is, and then you've committed to whatever you've written down, right? Without seeing what other people are writing, and so you kind of force that independent thinking as a result of it. So as far as this question is concerned, this is the key to the MCAT. They've asked us very pointedly which of these is going to most likely reduce the influence of the social phenomenon. So one, you have to be able to identify the social phenomenon, which is groupthink. Two, you have to find an answer choice that is going to lessen it. So this is a question where you will want and will need to go through the answer choices to actually evaluate them. So you can get a little bit of kind of a clue of the direction of where the answer choice is going pretty early on, right? It's a pretty early read. It says, increase the frequency of informal rapport building social gatherings among committee members before deliberations. If anything, that is further strengthening the social bonds, right? So there's going to be more groupthink because everyone's going to become even friendlier with each other. If you assign the chairperson to present a comprehensive summary of arguments in favor of the approval at the start of each meeting, you're now again creating more because you're, the person who's in charge, the chairperson, the boss, is now putting their opinion forward. So there's more likely of a chance of people wanting to kind of gravitate around what that person's thinking is. If you require that each committee member provide an independent written evaluation of the procedure prior to any group discussion, that actually lessens, right? It lessens the ability for people to know what other people are thinking before they make their decision. So you've now actually taken an opportunity to reduce the influence of the group think that's there. If you shorten the time that's allotted for deliberation, you're actually harming the situation because now you're not letting, again, everyone necessarily might not get an opportunity to be heard because you say, okay, we're only going to give this, 3 minutes to have this conversation. This actually happened to me last night. I had to have a meeting with some fellow members of my HOA, and we used Zoom, and it only gives you 40 minutes for like a free Zoom call or whatever. So we were just having our conversation, trying to figure out what to do with this raccoon that we've acquired into the roof. And then all of a sudden it just cut us off, and I was like, well, that's one way to come to a decision. It's the meeting is now over, is what it is. We jumped back on, but it was a funny I was actually thinking about this. I was like, is there group thinking going on right now? And there wasn't, but that's the three that are more are going to be incorrect. The one that is less is going to be the one that is going to be correct. So, A basically is more social bonding, that creates more groupthink. B, the leader is advocating first, creates more groupthink. D, there's less time, that advocates groupthink because you have a more hasty decision that comes into play, and you're more likely to, been influenced by the leader's state. So something to keep in mind. As far as retaining this for the MCAT, couple things. So one, learning obviously what groupthink is and looking at the signals. And there are signals that are in the question, right? That they told you that there was no outside input. I mean, basically the question is set up as a case study, right? So the leader's doing this. We're not getting any outside input. So if you think about this in terms of kind of that high cohesion, the directive leadership, the pressure to suppress the dissent, these are all kind of contributors to the groupthink, as it were. The three wrong answer choices, the trap answer choices, are all going in the opposite direction. So this is a matter of, one, if you know what the concept is, then being able to clean out anything that's not there. So the correct answer is going to be answer choice C for this one. But anyway, just something to think about. If you all would like to state what you thought about that out loud, no, I'm kidding. So there's my groupthink joke. So that's that, and that's all I have to say about it.
That's all I gotta say about that. Nice. Yeah, it's interesting. I've seen some really good psychology study videos where they actually have like a video in the room about where they're like conducting this groupthink experiment, and there's like 4 people in the room, and 3 of them are plants, and then there's the one person they're actually studying, and they're like, which circle's bigger? And it's completely obvious, but the 3 plants are like say the wrong one, and then the person who like is like, what's like, no, but I also don't want to be the idiot and be different than everyone else, so I'm just going to say what everyone else is saying. And it's so interesting how as human beings we are afraid to kind of be the other.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's crazy.
I blame, this generation might be now too young for it, but Sesame Street might be to blame for it, right? There was, which one of these is not like the other? You didn't want to be the other, right? You wanted to be the one that was like everything else. So
I knew Sesame Street was just a propaganda machine.
Right. That's right. With puppets or Muppets, whatever they are.
They're puppets. Yeah. I love Sesame Street. Love me some Grover, some Elmo, all that good stuff. All right. We got a lot of people here hanging out, learning from us. When you're going through questions on UWorld, and I think even on Blueprint, there's a setting where answers pop up right after answering the question. Recommend this strategy or grading questions all at the end? Interesting. I think there's a time and a place for either. Both.
Yeah, it's my answer is it depends on where you are in your MCAT prep, right? On day 1, quite frankly, I don't care if you're getting a question right or wrong. I want you to be utilizing it as a learning opportunity. Towards the end, as you're getting closer to the exam, I still don't care whether you get a question right or wrong. I want you to be utilizing it as an opportunity to learn and to grow and to get better. But at the same time, it's nice to know how you're performing, right? That's the reason why we want to know our score, right? Our sample test score, our practice test score is because we want to get a sense of where we are as far as the score goes. So yeah, I think early on, I think sometimes it's called tutor mode or something, to that effect. Totally fine. But definitely goes back to the mantra that I'm sure I've said here at Office Hours. If not, I've said it at our workshops. You have to get good at something before you can try to get good and fast at something. So, earlier on, your focus is getting the question right. Later on, your focus is getting the question right in a shorter amount of time so that you can go get more questions right in the allotted time that you have that the test gives you. So
nice. All right. Cars. Good old cars. What's your advice to study cars besides just practice passages? My score seems to fluctuate so much from test to test.
Yeah.
I think scores fluctuate a lot based on interest level of the passage. What do you think about that hypothesis?
I agree 100% because I personally perform better on stuff that I actually care about reading, right? So I'm like worst example as far as what you have to do. Here's the deal. You're never going to get all the passages or it's never going to be a situation where all the passages are of total interest to you, right? You got to fake it is what it comes down to. You got to fake interest. You have to pretend that you actually care about what they're writing about. And quite frankly, the way that you care about what they're writing about is by not caring about what they write about. You're just reading it for figuring out what the structure is of the passage. Why did they mention these things? What are they trying to convey to you? What is the purpose of each paragraph? That's all you really care about. So that's the way, as far as advice, as far as practicing the passages, treat them all the same. Don't get bogged down in the details. Read the information, write down why they wrote something, not what it was they actually wrote. So they wrote the first paragraph because they want to convey 5 examples to you about a certain author's, books that a certain author wrote. That's all. Doesn't matter what the books are, doesn't matter what they wrote about, doesn't matter what their name is, doesn't matter when they wrote it, just matters that they wrote 5 books that are examples of whatever the argument is the author of the passage is trying to convey.
There you go. Yeah. All right. EMT, PRN, and OOS. This person's got their, these are all initialisms down right now. These are not acronyms. These are initialisms. Yeah. Sophomore now, plan to spend summer for NIH, another initialism, research. MCAT, acronym, near home. Target for MCAT, 5/20, January 2027. Apply May. Is it okay to quit EMT job for this reason? Clinical 600 so far. MCAT prep near home. EMT. Yeah, I mean, Petros, this is what happens. Students graduate school, right? They graduate from college, and then they go home, and their activities stop. And for me, on the admissions side, this is a little bit less of an MCAT question, but on the admissions side, that looks like you're just like, okay, I'm done.
Yep, peace out.
Washed my hands of that. Let me go do something else I want to do. Like, I'm tired of that EMT stuff. I would not recommend stopping completely the EMT or clinical work. Now, you can go get different clinical work if you don't want to be an EMT anymore, or it's hard to find a PRN EMT position near home so that you can study for the MCAT. But I would not stop altogether just because you have 600 hours and you think the hours is enough. And fantastic target on that 520. So you can do it. What do you think about less than 500, Petros?
I don't know if it's doomsday, right? I mean, there's plenty of.
I know students that get him with less than.
Yeah. So that's I wouldn't overly dramatize it. That it's. I mean, there are plenty of people that get it with those numbers. So.
Yep. Plenty of people. 2. Just 2. Maddie said, not graduating, plan to continue year 4, out of state, reapply after the MCAT. Oh, yeah. I mean, if you're just going to stop for a little bit, but again, continue as soon as you can. Pick it back up. I call it the MCAT hibernation, Petros. I don't know if you heard me use that term before. When it's very clear on an application where students are like going into MCAT mode. As long as, right, it's good for the bear to actually wake up after hibernation and come out of the cave. As long as you wake up and come out and keep doing some clinical shadowing, community service stuff, that's good. Don't die in the cave. Moral of the story. Be like Tony Stark and figure out how to make an Iron Man suit.
There you go.
What's that?
I've seen that movie.
That's good. You've seen that one. All right. I've been watching all the Spider-Man and Iron Man movies with my kids, so I'm getting to relive those memories. They hold up. Tony, man, he's good. All right. For the Chem Phys section and Biochem, it's weird. Why didn't they just do CP and BB? Why did they type out Chem Phys? They're like, my fingers are tired. I'm just going to write BB. Is there such thing as a physics-heavy section or a biology-heavy section or vice versa? Or is it a myth? So many myths out there.
There's a lot of myths out there. Here's the reality. So there are, well, I'll do math. There are 59 questions on the exam on each of those sections. So by definition, if each question is either a chemistry or a physics question, then in theory there can be by a difference of 1 there could be a physics or a chemistry heavy section. It's not true. right? It is not true. There are going to be times, because this is where the mechanics of the MCAT come into play, which quite frankly, no one should be worrying about, because that's just brain space that you're eating up in your head that you're not dedicating to something else. The way the MCAT is set up, on any given day, no one is going to get the exact same version of the exam per se, right? There's always these variations. There are multiple numbers of passages and questions that are available on April 10th and on April 11th. And when I sit down, I get 59 of them. Ryan would get another 59. Some of those would overlap. Some of them won't overlap, right? Someone else is going to get another 59. Some of those will overlap, et cetera, et cetera. They randomize the exam. So yes, you might feel like more of your passages required you to utilize chemistry or utilize physics, but I wouldn't even like get that into your headspace, even if it, because you're going to be compared against everybody who had, so for every question, you're compared against everybody who had that question. So it's not like, oh, I had a lot of physics and I'm being compared against Ryan, who had a lot of chem, or for some reason, if he had a lot of chem in that section, I'm being compared against all the people that had the questions that I had. So even though we didn't have all the same questions, each question is going to be taken by multiple people. So I wouldn't even worry about that. It's a good question. In the old days, way back in the day, on the old version of the exam, when it was paper and pencil and it was harder to do the randomization, yes, there were cases where the sections were heavier in one or the other, but I wouldn't even worry about it at this point. Like, won't help your score. So.
Won't help your score. Here, there's a question before this one. Non-trad, 4 years removed from undergrad, prereqs 2018 to 2021, science GPA 3.2, had some personal and family issues, so didn't do well in college. I'm trying to study for the MCAT, but scored a 480 on my exam. What can I do for someone who is a non-trad who cannot afford to retake the prereqs? I really need to self-learn, but is it possible to self-learn all these subjects again? Petros, I would potentially argue this person didn't learn the prereqs before, and that is potentially holding them back.
That's probably what happened. Was that there wasn't as strong of a foundation as he thought.
This is part of the challenge in our American education system, that it's expensive to take classes. And for someone who went to school in 2018 to 2021, there are going to be med schools that don't like that, that those prereqs have expired at this point. Not every medical school, but some. And there's even more questions about whether or not that 3.2 is actually good enough to get in to medical school. And do you need to take more science classes anyway to show an upward trend, especially recent upward trend? So there's a lot more to break down here. A 480 obviously shows that someone just doesn't have the foundational knowledge to do well on the MCAT, and you need to start back at zero. Where do you start with a student like this?
I mean, one, it's a tricky one to answer, because there is a need for the application to go and show the upward trend, which may mean retaking those courses. Let's pretend that wasn't part of the issue. I think refamiliarizing yourself and relearning that material is going to be absolutely key. And there are plenty of free content resources available out there. So it's not, there's nothing really stopping you from relearning the material. But it will take time, is what it is. And then as you're learning the material, I think it's the same advice I gave earlier, right? Starting to think about how it's going to be applied on the MCAT, how it's going to actually show up on the MCAT. It's going to be a big part of it for sure.
Yep. Okay. All right. The slow reader phenomenon. Petros, cars and slow reading, a tale as old as time. I'm a horrible reader, super slow reader. I scored a 7 on my verbal section back in the day. I blame it all on my reading speed and comprehension. But I often hear from people who are MCAT experts that it's not reading speed that's the culprit.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I mean, it's a couple things. So the question I always ask is, why is the reading slow? Right? Is it that you're rereading stuff, which means you're not doing anything wrong per se, but you're not efficiently reading the material? And that inefficiency is sometimes because you're getting bogged down in the details, which is why you find yourself either rereading it or just reading it slower because you want to absorb all the information that's in there. The key to getting faster at reading anywhere, specifically on the MCAT, is to literally read it at face value without trying to do any type of analysis, any type of trying to connect the dots. It's plain and simple. Why was this written? That's all I'm trying to find out. I don't care about the details at this stage in the game. If the questions require me to know the details, I now know where to look versus having it all stuffed in my brain from the first time that I read through the material. So
yeah. All right. Is a 503 decent for MD schools? Not according to the data. It's outside of one standard deviation. So is it possible? Never say never, but it is not great. I hate physics. So, Petros, can you talk about mindset? Can we do a little kumbaya mindset exercise here? Anyone who comes in with this dogmatic mindset of I hate physics is going to struggle with physics as soon as they encounter a physics passage or a physics question.
Yeah. How
do we be nicer to ourselves?
Yeah. If you go into any situation in life, this isn't MCAT specific, but if you go into any situation in life with kind of either the negative mindset or the mindset of, oh, this is going to be horrible, right? Like I have, as I've gotten older, I have kind of weeded out my friends that used to do that, right? People would show up and be like, oh, this is going to be a horrible get together because so-and-so is showing up. It's like, you know what? I don't need that negativity around me. Like, we're cool now, right? Like, just go away. The reality is that if you go into a situation with kind of that hesitation, right? We hear this with cars a lot, right? I'm not good at cars. Well, or I'm not good at taking tests. Like, that's, you have to take the test. So if you go into it with that mentality, you are more likely to not be successful on it. So the turnaround I would give you, the kind of mindset shift moment I would give you is, if physics is your quote unquote enemy, or your, not your friend, something that you don't love, figure out why you don't like it. Is it, and I will say this, personal note, I didn't care for physics because I didn't have a great physics professor. It wasn't, they were a very smart person, but they didn't know how to actually teach. Second semester of physics, absolutely loved it, right? Literally, like, and if I had my time, had time and had my way, I would have gone back and retaken the first semester of physics with the professor who taught the second semester of physics. You know what I mean? Like, it was that, because it's just a matter of how it was presented. So you have to ask yourself, why is it that I don't like it? Is it that I don't like it because it was never really explained to me very well? Do I not like it because I've struggled with it and I didn't have the right core foundational, math to do well at physics or to really to understand it? Or, and this I think is true very specifically with physics, no one ever explained to me the relevance of why I needed to learn this stuff, right? Like, nobody ever tells you that in school, right? They're just like, memorize these formulas, learn this concept, right? And you're going, but why? And nobody tells you. And then all of a sudden one day you go, oh, now I understand why I need to know this, right? Now somebody has told me that, has explained this to me. So really being able to kind of embrace the core of where those issues stem from, I think is going to be key. But I always say this: prep with a smile on your face. Like if you're struggling with something, just smile through it, right? And for some reason, it works. So it just de-stress yourself where you can.
Fake it till you make it.
Fake it till you make it. I smile all the time, so I don't know what that's telling you.
Yeah. If it scores more than 520, does it matter if it's a 523 or 525? Absolutely not. Negative.
But it's one louder.
Why is it one louder?
Do you know that? Do you know that movie?
No. What's that?
Oh, Spinal Tap.
Oh yeah, I've never watched Spinal Tap.
Okay, well,
There's one I have to ask. Like School of Rock, Spinal Tap, those music movies, I never watched. Maybe I should. All right, let's get more here. If my college offers Biochem 1 and 2, is it recommended to take both before the MCAT?
Yeah. Yes, so go look at the biochem that's tested on the MCAT and cross-reference that with what the course description says for your Biochem 1 and your Biochem 2. Because depending on the school, sometimes it might all be covered in Biochem 1, right? So my answer is yes if you see that once you do the cross-reference.
There you go. Alrighty. Three and a half months full-time studying?
Yeah.
Go for it. If it works. Yeah. If you go on Reddit, 2.5 weeks full-time studying.
That's right. That's right.
Follow my exact 525 2-week plan now.
Don't get me started. That's
we should turn all of those into like infomercials.
Well, I mean, it's I feel like anyone who just, okay, to be fair, people that we have on our team who tutor for MCAT have all scored above a 520, but they're not on our team because they scored a 520. They're on our team because they can teach really well and they can coach and they can mentors and they care about students, right? But I feel like anybody who, scores well on the MCAT all of a sudden becomes an MCAT expert, right? Like, boom, this was my plan, so you should do it too. And the same thing happens with med school admissions, right? People get into med school and boom, all of a sudden they're an expert on how to get in and let me give you my advice it's like, that's not how it works, but okay. So I'm glad you turned off Reddit. That's the best thing you've done is so.
Yeah, I made a Chrome extension. Every time you try to go to the Reddit pre-med subreddit or our Reddit or our pre-med or student doctor network, it's like flashes a warning. It'd be like, are you sure you want to subject yourself to this toxic environment?
This is me now ranting or sounding curmudgeonly. Like, if you just took the amount of time that people waste reading about how to study for the MCAT on Reddit and on Student Doctor Network and studied for the MCAT, your score would improve. Surprise, right? So,
yeah. All right, friends. We're here almost every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern. I'll be out next Tuesday, so we'll skip next Tuesday.
I'm out too.
Oh, that's right. You're out as well. I was gonna be at a conference, but my registration was revoked. Apparently, I'm not cool enough to hang out with the AAMC folks. Oh, that's crazy.
It's still my birthday next Tuesday, so I'm gonna still be out. Like my birthday has been revoked. That's the
Okay. There you go. Happy early birthday.
Thank you.
I would sing you happy birthday now, but nobody wants to hear my happy birthday. So yeah, everyone have a wonderful week. I'll be back tomorrow for pre-med office hours at 1 p.m. Eastern. You can come ask your med school admissions and pre-med questions there. And if you got MCAT questions, you can come there too. So yeah, everyone have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.